Folks, what happens when a school teacher tries to make a lesson real, then all of a sudden gets targeted as a result? My next guest, that's actually what took place for him. He was trying to give his students a lesson on the First Amendment, on the Constitution. Well, Lee Francis was teaching history at Massey Hill Classical High School in Fayetteville, North Carolina, trying to teach the students about the Supreme Court and about the decision when it came to the U.S. flag. Well, he steps on the U.S. flag to illustrate this. But two students walked out mid-lesson, and later, an upset parent wrote a post on Facebook urging the school to take action. Her post read in part, quote, "That flag might not mean anything to the teacher, but it means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the families that had their service member come home to them in a casket with that flag draped over it. I asked the principal if she would be letting the superintendent in on this, and she stated, no, this is an in-house matter." Now, Francis was initially suspended from teaching at the school, but in a recent meeting with the Cumberland County superintendent, he learned his contract won't be renewed. Well, he joins me right now in studio. Lee Francis, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
So here you are trying to illustrate actual history, a Supreme Court decision that says what you did is constitutional.
Right, that's great.
And you were teaching. So they're mad because you were teaching?
It was a demonstration. It was a lesson to make history come alive, to get kids to think critically about what's going on, not only in our communities, but what's going on in our text. And there has been a vitriolic backlash because of it.
So, was this the first time you had done that?
Yes.
And why did you want to do this? And did you think that if I do this, there could be a reaction?
It was really a spur of the moment kind of demonstration. We were talking about freedom of speech, or freedom of expression, and we got into symbolic speech, and I wanted to get the kids to make sure they understood it. We can talk about that speech is written, and it's written down, it's verbalized, but I wanted to show them what symbolic speech was.
So in the classroom, that was this back and forth between you and the students.
Absolutely.
Where I take the discussion wasn't heated, but it was a discussion about the issues.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. And you know, outside of the two students that left the room, the majority of the class understood exactly what the lesson was. I had kids from other classes coming in saying, I even understood, and I wasn't even in your class. And so it's unfortunate that the community has been asinine in its response and their refusal to learn the facts.
And so, what now for you? I mean, first of all, you're one of the few African-American men who's teaching in a classroom. That's an issue. What's next for you?
The superintendent told me bluntly that I would not be put back in the classroom. I have been relocated as of September 27th to work in a warehouse where I move pallets and electronic equipment.
So we're gonna hold up. You're a teacher.
That's correct.
And you're doing a laborer's job.
That's correct.
Up until this point, had you had any issues in the classroom?
No, sir. My evaluations from my principal were stellar. And so it begs the question, what prompted the response? The superintendent himself said, quote, that my acts were not an act of civil disobedience towards the county or the school. And so it begs the question, what exactly did I do wrong? So
the superintendent said you weren't being disobedient?
Absolutely.
They acknowledged that you were teaching?
That's exactly right.
So what they're really doing is they are basically falling prey to community protest.
It seems that way. The superintendent said that while my actions were not an act of civil disobedience, it was, quote, inappropriate, and that was the basis for discipline.
What's next for you?
Well, this is something that has not been released to the press, but we have my hearing set for November 30th, where the school board will decide whether or not I'm terminated or whether or not I keep my job. The school board does not decide, however, whether or not I go back into a classroom. The superintendent made that clear that that is not an option.
So if the school board says you keep your job, you're still working as a laborer?
That's correct.
Let's say the school board makes that decision. Are you going to keep doing that, or are you going to seek a teaching job elsewhere?
One of the issues is I'm an educator. I've got a master's degree. I've got advanced training in education in this field. That's what I signed up to do. I didn't sign up to be a laborer, and not that there's anything wrong with that. But my education is to be sharing ideas in the classroom, engaging students, and getting them to be inspired. That's what I want to do.
Have you heard from other school districts?
I have not. One of the issues that I've run into is that I will need a recommendation from the superintendent.
To teach again?
Yes. One of the things that, even if the board decides not to terminate me, one of the things the superintendent is well within his rights to do is to take my teaching license. If I am terminated, not only do I not teach in the county, I don't teach in the state, which by and large, I don't get reciprocity in other states to teach.
Okay, so wait a minute. So who could take your license?
The superintendent.
So the school board would decide whether you keep your job.
Correct.
Okay, so if the school board decides that you keep your job, can a superintendent still take your license?
That's the question my attorneys are working to figure out now.
And so let's say a charter school in another city decides that, hey, we want to offer you a job. Can they do so?
Yes, the charter schools are outside of certain regulations that we require, for example, a public school, a state-mandated school. And so they have different regulations that they're able to work with. And for example, if I were to go to the university level, the same thing is true there. Teaching license doesn't particularly matter in those kinds of spheres. But if I'm terminated, that changes the ballgame.
Let's say you get hired by a charter school. Let's say you teach there 3-5 years.
Sure.
Would you still be bound by that superintendent's decision in North Carolina?
The license, they're able to take that, I believe, for up to 2 years. And then I'd have to apply and do the whole process over again.
Okay, so if the school chooses to, if the school board chooses to either fire you or to keep you, doesn't matter what their decision is. Even if they fire you, the superintendent could still allow you to keep your license.
Yes.
So your future livelihood is all in the hands of this one superintendent. Who's the superintendent?
Dr. Frank Till Jr. He came from Florida. He was actually terminated from that position from Florida before coming to us. And so I find the whole thing a bit ironic that I was teaching a lesson on freedom of speech, showing students what their rights are, and the irony is I was being called unpatriotic. And here I'm facing termination from someone that faced it himself.
Well, who have you gotten support from?
The ACLU has come out in support of us. They came out immediately in support of us. Former teachers from that school, Massey Hill Classical High School, have come out, sending me emails. Students, parents, military officials, a lot of the religious organizations, a lot of folks have come out in support.
Are they going to rally and be there for you on November 30th for your hearing?
Absolutely. I'm actually teaching a lesson Wednesday, this Wednesday the 16th, in Fayetteville.
Where?
And it is at the office of a church organization there, and we've got a great response for those that support what I did and those that did not. And being a military town, it's a lot of military folks that do not support what I did.
Well, man, I mean, that's certainly amazing that you're trying to actually teach history, trying to teach a Supreme Court decision, and then people are angry that you actually chose to do so.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Lee, try to keep us abreast of what happens.
I will do. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.